an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering the Hunger Games prequel, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. One of the worst titles I've ever heard. In these first 3 chapters, we get to see Coriolanus Snow as a teen who is now mentoring the girl from District 12. Who would have thought? Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
You made a real noise there.
I did make a noise.
That was a disapproving huff.
Listen. All right. Listen, folks, friends, listeners, lovely, lovely listeners. I know that as we were, especially with the movies, not so much with the books, but with the movies, there was a lot of conversation between the two of us about Snow's fixation on Katniss. This nobody from 12, right? Why? Mm-hmm. Why for?
Correct.
And my immediate reaction, which is not always the correct reaction, I'm not saying I won't be corrected or won't change my mind, but my immediate reaction was, oh, we're going to try to make that make sense. We're going to create a whole thing now. Just giving him a backstory that would explain this weird fascination, connection, whatever you want to call it, with the District 12 that may then shed light on Snow's relationship with Katniss. Again, primarily in the movies, not so much in the books.
Correct.
So that was my first sort of like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, this was really hard to like talk around when we were covering the movie, because there were understandably folks in the Discord who were saying that, like, well, the fixation actually makes sense because of what you find out in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that wasn't written yet when she wrote the movies. You could say that maybe she already knew that about him. That it
then
was
why
like,
wasn't
she hadn't
then
written
why wasn't it in the book?
Well, that's the thing, is like, I like, it feels almost like in that case you have to treat the movies and the books as separate things. Mm-hmm. And that she saw the way it was going in the movies and the way they depicted him. And I say they, but she was like involved with the development of the screenplay. So I don't know, but it's almost like when she began working on the script, it gave her the idea to do this and take him in a different direction than she originally did. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was a mistake. I don't like it. So
yeah,
that's where I stand on this. And it's why I was loath to cover it initially, because I feel like it sort of cheapens things retroactively. And yet there is some fascinating stuff about the early games. Like the whole way that this all is set up is so different. And the world that he lives in is not what I was expecting. So in that respect, it really got my attention. It just felt like you could have written this about anybody. and it would have been interesting. It doesn't, I don't get the choice for it to be him.
Right.
In fact, I would think it'd be kind of interesting for it to be somebody else's POV who is around him, watching him, rather than being in his head. I think that would be like fascinating. But I don't think writing from the perspective of this guy was the move, personally.
Yeah. I'm okay. Okay.
Sorry, guys. That's my kid. I'm putting it on the floor. Hold on.
Oh, bye. She's so fucking cute. I can't stand it. You guys, if you don't know, Natasha has a new kitten and I am obsessed. This thing is so cute. She's so tiny. She's so squeaky and I love everything about her. And honestly, I could just podcast about her for 2 hours and would feel very fulfilled in that. But I know that's not what you guys are here for. I will say that while I appreciate and am always here for a complicated villain, and give me layers, give me nuance, give me all that stuff. So but don't try to apologize for the monster that he's going to become. Like,
sure.
You know what I mean?
And I don't think that she does that, to be fair. Like,
that's
I'll
really good to hear.
Obviously draw your own conclusion. And that doesn't feel like, to me, what the book is. At least she doesn't make that mistake. But it did feel unnecessary to me. It just felt like this could have just been about the early days from anybody, and we didn't need to have the baggage of this here, and we didn't need to explain his fascination with Katniss that really didn't feel like it was extant in the books at all. It was a movie fabrication, it felt like.
Agreed.
So why are you doing this? It's just all around. I don't really get the driving idea behind why she felt she had to write this so long after the original series.
And I'm really curious too, because a lot of times, I mean, a person that's had the kind of success that Suzanne Collins had with this property, I'm assuming she has a lot more power and say as an author. But I will grant her that when you're shopping a book, sometimes trying to sell it, the person you're selling it to doesn't see your vision. And maybe she, like, I'm willing to what do you call it? What is it, that expression? Head wonk or whatever?
Headcanon?
Not headcanon, but when you're like making up something to fix the headcanon or whatever. Like you're trying to Fangwank. There it is. I'm willing to say maybe she did have like a no-name person, and then the publishers was like, nobody's going to care about Joe Schmo. We need to have it be a character that everybody already knows so that they want to read it. And then she ends up being like, oh, okay, fine. I'll make it Snow then. And then the publishers are like, bingo, that's what we want, you know? Because that's a thing that does happen in the world. Because I agree, this could have just been anybody living in this time. To give us because I'm fascinated with the condition that the Capitol was in, how different the games are up until the moment that these chapters open. These chapters open, I want to say it's like the 10th Hunger Games. So
something like that. Yeah.
Right. They've been doing it for a couple of years, but it hasn't been really successful yet. So the whole sort of premise of this is this year they're doing something new, which is introducing the mentors. That's like the new gimmick for the games this year. And I think all of that stuff is really, really interesting. Exactly. Since we are getting Snow, and that's just who this is going to be about, I'm not going to harp on it too much. I will say, finding out that Snow is from a family that has fallen into
dire straits
into disrepair, that has fallen from their status is extraordinarily interesting to me. The fact that they are still pretending to be this affluent family when they are starving to death. almost quite
Yeah.
literally, and living in a penthouse that is barely furnished, and they've had to burn most of their furniture and all of their books is wild, because it's not the sort of origin story I expected of Snow. So that's that's very, very interesting. So I was here for that. Also, he has a cousin named Tigress who wants to be a fashion designer. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's not a coincidence. This is this is Tigress that we met in the books.
This is the
right?
Tigress. Yeah.
So how she comes, like that journey I don't know if it's covered in the books here, but her journey from this to how we met her in the original trilogy, that has got to be a hell of a story.
I really would have liked this written from her perspective.
That would have been
I feel like
fun.
that would have been much more interesting, personally.
That could have been very fun.
Yeah.
But also, she was such a minor character that, if I'm going on my theory of like, oh, we need a big name to sell this book, she's a one-off character that we met one time, and towards the end of the trilogy, I could see why somebody.
But she's so high impact and so memorable. And
there
are so many questions surrounding what happened to her that I feel like people would have been pretty into it. Like the sentence where she's mentioned first in the book is underlined by thousands of people on the Kindle.
Really?
So clearly everybody had a strong reaction to seeing her name, and I think she should have been the one. It would have been a totally different story, but that's fine. I would rather that. But it's like, I just want to front load this to let you guys know why I had my issues with even covering it. In the end, I think it's going to spark some really interesting discussion. And I think you're going to find the more of the world building really fascinating. And I think that's where Suzanne Collins tends to shine a lot of the time. So in that respect, it's not like there's nothing of value in this book, but it feels a lot of the time like, yeah, but we know who he turned out to be. And why do we have to go through all of this? You know,
it's very difficult. I will admit. So, like as I'm reading these first couple chapters, and there are some moments of real, like, if I didn't know what a terrific piece of shit he turned into being, I would have had so much more empathy for his circumstances. As he's trying to maintain this veneer of respectability and affluence, while secretly he is wearing shoes that don't fit and a shirt that was barely put together in time for this day. And how desperately he needs this prize because he can't afford tuition at university. I had no compassion for any of this because I know he turns out to be terrible.
Yeah. That's the danger. It's just it's a weird thing because, like, the circumstances that he finds himself in, there's also the aspect of like, yeah, they have no money. They have very little food, but also the food exists. It's out there to have. And he values the name and ego of his family above just surviving.
Oh yeah,
so
the appearance.
He's choosing this in a way.
Yep, I can't look too hungry. I can't fill my plate too much because I don't want other people to know how desperate I am for this food. But all right, let's start it.
That's the survival of this particular place. That's how that has to work here, I guess. So it's like, it's still him trying to survive. It just looks very different than Katniss' situation. And it's hard to, like, because I feel like you could just lower yourself to doing something else and then get paid and have the money, but you don't want to consider that because it's beneath you. Again, then you're choosing this position repeatedly. And so my initial sense of compassion is just sort of overwhelmed by like, all right, sir, well, if it's this bad, I don't know what to tell you,
and I wonder how much of that is, it's difficult for me as a professional poor person. I'm not an amateur. I'm a professional at this point. it's hard for me to understand the sort of class binding that takes place, right? When you're of a certain sort of strata of class that, and you're raised in that becomes paramount. It's the most important thing. And to lower yourself is like the greatest sin. You would rather starve and save face.
Yes.
Then humble yourself and either do something or accept help or whatever the case may be. And how restrictive that can be and how oppressive that in itself can be. And I think because I'm a poor person, it's difficult for me to have an empathy for that circumstance. It's giving, like, I was trying to think what author, and all I kept thinking is Dickens, and I don't know why I kept going to Dickens. I think it's because of Great Expectations. But the sort of like, used to be rich, but now the house has fallen to ruin. And,
Sure.
Our name used to ring in the streets and was grand, but now we've fallen so low. But we still have our pride and we still hold our heads up high, despite the fact that we haven't eaten in 4 days. It's so alien to my own experience that it's difficult for me to put myself in that position. There's when it first opens and he is, like, it literally opens with him like boiling cabbage, which is just the worst way to have it. Like, from me to y'all, if cabbage is in the house and you have to make it, I love cabbage, by the way.
I do not. I don't like cabbage at all.
Listen, if you fry some cabbage, you just saute that shit in a pan. Listen, that is a snack.
That is so depressing. I'm so
depressed. It is so fucking good. And I know he can't afford bacon, but if you're making like cabbage and you throw some bacon in that bitch while you sauteing it in the fry, listen, so good. Don't boil it. Don't boil cabbage. That is not doing anybody any favor.
I don't, cabbage just, it feels so in your face. It's like so upfront everywhere it is, coleslaw is all cabbage. I was going to through that shit.
I fucking love coleslaw. I love it so much.
Sauerkraut, and it's just this smell that like you can't get out of your nose after you smell it cooking. It's I really hate it when it's like a main ingredient in like a stir fry. Because then you think it's noodles because it's sliced thin, and you bite in, you're expecting noodle texture, and you get like the
and you get cabbage,
and it's barely even like cooked because it's a fry, so it's fast.
Oh my
and it's
god,
like,
it's so
just
good.
I hate it so much.
I don't really eat sauerkraut because it's like a little bit too overwhelming for me. I'll say no to it 9 times out of 10, but the 10th time somebody will sneak it in, and I'll be like, oh shit, this slaps. But I'll never like voluntarily like ask for it or accept it. But if you sneak it in, I'm gonna fuck that shit up.
Oh man, you guys, this is so, it's funny too. He describes like, starting the boil and filling the apartment with the smell of poverty is the line. And I was just like, ooh, that's a really good line though. That was pretty good.
Yeah. And it's in this sort of, this contrast between the fact that they are this poor, but they live still in one of like the most opulent apartment buildings in all of the capital, in the penthouse, but they have nothing. And then he's got this grandmom, this doddering grandmom, grandmam they call her.
Grandmam, amazing. I love that so much.
Like, I'm a little salty that I'm not, like, that I didn't have kids, so I won't have grandkids, so nobody will ever call me grandmam. I got to figure out a way to get that to be a thing that happens for me. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to work it out, but I got a pin in that, because I felt like I wouldn't mind being addressed that way. And And so, yeah, it opens on the day of reaping, and it's a big deal for him because he's one of these Fancy Pants Academy students. This is another really interesting thing. He gets to go to this amazing school that's free based on his family name, based on his status.
Right.
Which is, I was trying to think of something comparable, and I can't. Like something that's completely free that you just have access to because you are perceived as being of a certain class. And I know that there's examples out there, but I was really hard pressed to come up with one because capitalism and nothing is fucking free. Except when you get rich enough, then everything is free because you just trade on your name, which is
that is exactly correct. Yep.
A story broke today or yesterday about a performer named Sean Kingston. I'm old and not hip. Oh my
God, girl.
Did you hear about this? Right? So I don't know who he is or what he did, but apparently he's getting indicted for fraud, him and his family, because he got all of this shit, mansion and entertainment system shit built in his house that he can't afford. But people were willing to provide for him based on their perception that he was a successful entertainer. And he was good for it. And then they found out he wasn't, and now they're mad and want their money back. But like, why are you, nobody would give it to me. You know what I'm saying?
You are correct.
It's such a weird thing. And that's when we talk about, taxing billionaires and people will be like, oh, well, they really don't actually have that much money. Their net worth isn't how much money they actually have. It's just how much they're actually, like, what are we?
The most tedious argument.
Right? Like, either you have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, why do you get to live as though you do have it?
Yep.
And Snow's got a lot of that going on.
Yeah, Snow's he's obsessing over what he's going to wear today because he had thought he was going to get up and come out here and find Tigress working on his shirt and that it would be ready for him. And he's almost thinking, like, did she forget about it? Like, what's going on? Meanwhile, the Pan Am anthem is playing and his grandmother is warbling it at the top of her voice.
There's lyrics to it, which I don't think we ever got.
It's giving We Will Rise Again. That's what I'm hearing. The South will rise again.
You are not wrong. You're not wrong.
But her whole deal is so wild because she's just kind of living in this fantasy that they'll be fine and come back to themselves. And she can because she's going to be dead. So who cares? She can just believe that. But it turns out wildly that she actually does turn out to be right. He does become president, even though that seems wholly unlikely at this stage.
She's been telling him that since he was a small child, that he is like destined for greatness and that he'll be president one day. Which is, I mean, I get like giving your children like zero limitations, telling them that they can be anything they want to be, but also, ma'am.
Yeah.
But then also, you were right.
It's like to be a person like that, that's so sure that this is where, like, that is just a kind of existence that I can't relate to.
Yeah, I
just being so self-assured. Oh, what?
100% cannot relate.
Yeah,
like he's when he's finally wearing, because Tigress does end up coming through in a clutch with this shirt that she has had to go through. This is very interesting to me as well, too. Tigress has a job. She works for someone named, I was so glad that they called it out immediately. Her name is Fabricia, maybe?
Fabricia, I believe, yeah.
Fabricia Whatnot. A woman as ridiculous as her name.
They had to say it. She had to at least acknowledge it.
You goddamn right she did. Because if you had just put a period after that name and then kept moving like you didn't just say that, we would have had a problem.
Oh man, yeah.
But Tigress has this job and she's not treated very well here.
No.
You know, but she has lowered herself to this because in her mind, it is in service to what she wants her life to be, which is a life in fashion design. So for her, this is like a step on that path.
Yeah.
Snow, on the other hand, does not seem like the type that would be putting up with this or doing this.
That's exactly, yeah. You know, that's exactly where I come away, is that she is out here like taking some shit in the hopes of a future gain. And he is unwilling to like take that step and insists that everything look as if it is totally unchanged. For what reason? For just the fact that there are people out there who would be snide and you would fall in the ranks of like society. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, who cares? Like, I just literally, who cares? Go get a job and pay your rent and sell your ridiculous apartment and get over yourself.
What does he say? It's when the idea of and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but when the other kid mentions the fact that they might start taxing these old apartments, and he has that moment of panic, and it like for Snow at least for Coriolanus, who she calls him Corio, so I think I might just do that.
Yeah, it's Coriolanus according to the audiobook. And I don't like it.
I don't like that at all.
Same.
This idea that if he is not a Snow who lives in this apartment with these with all of these, the appearance of money and status, then he is nothing without it.
Yeah.
And even though he's clearly very self-possessed and very smart and very charming, he seems to lack the sort of moral center that makes a person able to be who they are regardless of their circumstances.
Yeah. Agree.
Which I think is a damning indictment.
It's honestly surprising to me how many people are like that, because, you know, it just makes me sort of stop and realize, like, maybe that's why I'm not wildly wealthy, is that I just have been unwilling to compromise on basic things, and other people are willing to do that. Maybe that's it. And maybe I should have compromised, and then I would be, you know, but like the whole nature that gets you there is the nature that would keep you from doing any good with it once you get there. So
I definitely should have compromised on a lot of shit if I wanted things to work out differently for me. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of things I should have done differently.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times where I probably should have said yes when I was like, absolutely the fuck not. But, you know, we all make our choices.
We do, though. All right. So she comes in, tells him about this like whole thing that she did with this ridiculous shirt. It's amazing. The way that she manages to like pull it out and make it look truly gorgeous.
Listen. Meanwhile, he was like scheming on how he could call out sick.
Yep.
Because he's not going to have a shirt to wear.
Right thing to wear. Yep. So it says the thick linen was neither the original white nor the yellow of age, but a delicious cream. The cuffs and collar had been replaced with black velvet, and the buttons were gold and ebony cubes. Tesserae. Each had 2 tiny holes drilled through it for the thread. So, first of all, they're actually using like money for the buttons, basically.
Listen.
Tesserae? Which, like, what?
I had so many questions. I thought that I was fucked up. I was like, wait, that's the fucking, you know, I thought it was like a policy where you get, you know, rations by putting your name in the in the reaping pool multiple times. That's what my idea of tesserae was. I wasn't aware that it could be used in any other context.
It seems that it's only for the impoverished. Like, the fact that they have them, he mentions later, oh, that's why they make me think of the maid's room.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, another example of you're choosing this. You have the means to go and get something using this, but you can't be seen using this to pay for it. So instead, you're going to make it decor on your clothing to cultivate an image of having money that you don't have, but you could have a little bit if you just didn't do this. Like, it's all inverted. It's so bizarre. It's such a weird mind frame to be in. And it's so hard for me to understand. It's just the kind of face that he has to keep up. I just can't relate, man. And it's hard for me to value that at all. It's hard for me to give a shit about keeping that when then you shouldn't have it. If it's that delicate, if it's that easy to lose, get out. It's a toxic, bad situation. Go do a different thing. But he can't because his whole self is wrapped up in this somehow. So anyway, sorry guys. Going on my rants, but that's how it's going to be. And yeah, it turns out that she had used like marigolds to dye it, and that she found a drawstring pouch that had some, it was like big enough that she could cut it up to use it on the cuffs and things. All of this. When
she boiled potatoes to get starch to fucking press the shirt.
Yep.
Yeah. She's like the fucking MVP here in these chapters, at least. Also,
she's
we get
like
the
a
first
Katniss in some ways. She's like a city Katniss. Katniss is out here just like hunting and gathering, and she's kind of out here doing the same thing. Like, what treasures can I make out of this stuff that everybody else is like ignoring or too afraid to?
Yeah, she's willing to go out and try to figure out how to fix some shit and make shit work. When other people are, I don't want to say he's not willing, because clearly he has an agenda. He has a plan for his life that's all mapped out if he can just get from A to B to C. And in his mind, and we know from the original books that he's successful, and he does pull his family up out of this into power and prestige and money. So we know that it ends up working out for him up until the point where he's mauled to death. But, but in the trenches, the type of work he's willing to do is very different than the type of work that Tigress is willing to do. And if you'll all forgive me, but I feel like that's very gendered and it's very real.
Very, very agree. Yeah. Yes. So she stayed up all night. She ate potato skins to keep herself fucking fueled, I guess is the best way to put it. They have, it's like the most bare bones.
That's where all the vitamins are, she says.
So he goes and puts it on. His grandmother comes out and wants to give him a rose and stabs him, and it bleeds, and he has to hold his hand out from his shirt to keep from staining it. And it's a weird moment. His grandmother seemed perplexed. I only wanted you to look elegant, she told him. Of course you did, grandma'am, said Tigress, and so he shall. And I was like, it felt like her reaction was to his fear of staining the shirt, I guess. He must have reacted really dramatically.
I agree.
But it isn't described that way, so it was a little bit confusing, that moment for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It just says, he held the shirt out to keep it. It says he held his hand out to keep it from staining his precious shirt.
Right.
His grandmother seemed perplexed. Because his grandmom doesn't seem to, understand the work that went into getting this shirt to be usable. and B, doesn't understand how important it is to him that he present himself in a certain way. Because my assumption was his grandmother is still operating under this sort of idea that getting dressed and looking this nice is just a Tuesday. Because she's in denial about the circumstances that they actually are living in. You know, like his grandmom is almost kind of like, well, you're overreacting because the shirt is just a shirt. You know, you could just go to the closet and grab another shirt.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, that makes more sense. I like that explanation. So she gets taped up, goes out.
Really,
go ahead.
Really quick. There's one line that I just want to really mention. It says that it's because Tigress leads him away to like tend to the bleeding, and it says he reminded himself that self-control was an essential skill, and he should be grateful his grandmother provided daily opportunities to practice it. That is such a loaded sentence.
Yes, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of moments like this where there's, you know, just sort of dropping in either a way that he sees things or the approach he's taking to something that are sort of offhanded in a way. But if you look at them at all, you're just like, wow, that's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So he is going to the like reaping in the capital, which is basically where all of the privileged children who are going to be mentors to the tributes find out who they are mentoring. And it's like a big deal. Who you get is very indicative of your social standing.
Yeah.
And the whole like goal is to be one of the top districts, one or two ideally. Otherwise, it's embarrassing.
Right. And this is like the pilot program.
There, he gets 12.
Yeah, he gets
right,
there.
Yeah.
This whole, like, before the reaping happens, there's this whole sort of like social networking thing that's happening. This sort of like schmoozing of the professors and the students at the academy. There's also a gentleman floating around whose last name is Heavensby. And I was just like, oh, word?
Yep.
keep my eye on that. Yep. But, so there's, we kind of see how Snow interacts with these people, and there's his professor whose name I can't recall, but there's like a woman that he works closely with who is like a little bit of a drinker, and then there's another teacher who I kept wanting to call the PE teacher, but I don't think that's exactly right.
I'm trying to find her name because I'm going forward. Yeah.
The woman who has the shield.
Right. Well, because there's a guy who has the shield. Is that who you're talking about?
Well, there's a teacher, and then she has a student that's actually carrying the shield for her.
Oh, that's how it was set up. Okay, yeah. Because I was like, wait a second. Yeah.
And the kid struggling to carry the shield is he's also another interesting character because he's a district kid who's the son of a father who happened to make so much money during the war that he is now capital, even though he's actually district. And this kid has had years of like living in a capital, but has not really like assimilated well. And it's doubly interesting because this particular student whose name starts with an S, but it's like a weird name. It's like Sejanus or something.
Sejanus. Yeah.
That kid's father made money from District 2 because the Snow's money was all tied up in ammunitions and weapons in 13. And that's kind of how they went bust.
Yeah.
So all their investments in the stock market was in one place.
put all of their eggs in 13's basket,
Right.
and 13 said, "Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to make several thousand omelets. Goodbye."
I love that little detail that the Snow's money was all tied up in 13. That added a little like layer of like, okay, Suzanne. Okay.
Yeah, she's just like, no, everything is trauma always. There's no coincidences. So yeah, this conversation, first of all, I just want to mention the constant jockeying. It starts off with him coming in and it says, "The world still thought Coriolanus rich, but his only real currency was charm, which he spread liberally as he made his way through the crowd. Faces lit up as he gave friendly hellos to students and teachers alike, asking about family members, dropping compliments here and there. Your lecture on district retaliation haunts me. Love the bangs. How'd your mother's back surgery go? Well, tell her she's my hero." And this whole thing is honestly like, low-key, what I am rooting for Sansa Stark someday, for her to like roll through with this kind of energy. And really, she's already like well on her way. But it's just funny to see somebody who is so aware of what they're doing and not actually caring at all about any of these people, and yet making it apparently look like he's sincere.
Listen, this type of
people seem to be falling for this.
Is so valuable and so important. This type of schmoozing and networking, and it is something that I have always dismissed and belittled and had no time for. And kids, don't listen to me.
Yeah,
listen to Snow. He knows what he's doing.
I'm actually really good at this, but it is always surprising to me because I do it and I don't think about it because I'm just like, well, this is just what you do. And then people will seem to take that as like, oh, now we're friends. We're like actually friends. And I'm like, no, don't you get that this was like the contract that I have to be social with you in this way where we are. We're not like buds now. And it's almost like, oh my God, you thought I was sincere? LOL, which feels horrible. But also, it wasn't that I was being insincere. I was just doing what I felt I was supposed to do. There was no objective behind it like he has.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, he's doing it with an agenda. He's doing it to social climb and to make connections. And he understands that what he is doing is trying to make himself someone of consequence. That people will think of him and think well of him. People will think of him and want to help him in return because they will be like, oh, he was so nice. He remembered to ask about my mother. He noticed my new bangs, He really appreciated my lecture. What can I then do for him? Everything that he does is, at least so far, and from what I know about the trilogy and how it ends, is always in service of his own agenda and his own ideas and his own wants. And like, that's how successful people move through the world. Like this shit works in real life. It really, really does. It is such a skill to have. Bums me out that I'm not better at it. But, if you can manage it, and then, because to your point where you're talking about your own personal experience, people respond to it because
they really do.
At a very basic level, we all just want to be seen. We want to feel like we're being seen. And if someone can make us feel that way, we will then just fill in our own fan fiction about that interaction.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's sort of a weird, I think you have the same issue as me with this. So there's this app called Finch, and it's a productivity app. It's also like meant to be kind of like a little bit of a help for people with ADD when you have issues with completing tasks. And it is a gamified productivity app where you have a little pet bird, and when you complete tasks, you get gems that you can buy outfits for your bird with. And while it does have a subscription that you can do, it's also free and very robust while free. And there's no way to buy the gems. You have to earn them through completing tasks. There's no way around it. So it's worked really, really well for me, except for one thing, and this always happens. The bird talks to you. And there are two different interactions. One of them is the interaction after the daily trek that your bird takes on. They take a little trip somewhere and then come back and tell you what they learned, and it levels you up. But there's also just when you open the app and the bird being like, oh, hi, it's nighttime. Getting ready for bed soon? Little things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every now and then, I'll complete something, and my bird will say, thank you for believing in me. You're one of the best
Lord.
people I know. Something like that, that I find so grating. Like, you don't know me. Don't talk to me like you're a real thing and I'm somebody that you're aware of. I know what this is. Get out of here. And I don't respond well to it. It'll be something like, I know that you're doing your best. No, you don't. What do you mean? You can't see me. I don't want you to. Get the fuck out of my face with this insinuation. Don't like it. But I go into the Facebook group for Finch, and it's screenshots of these moments from people saying that they got choked up. That
really
means so much to them that it helped them on a really bad day.
Wow.
It worked for them in a way that genuinely baffles me. Because you know there's nothing behind that. And it doesn't matter.
Just hearing
I
it.
don't get it.
Listen, my little bird is starved for affection. She pops in and I get a notification. She'll be like, how you doing today? And I'm like, declined. Nope. I can't. Will you want to check in with me today? Nope. Sure don't. Can't. Sorry.
Just delete it.
I need to. It just sent me my
terrible.
It sent me my little bedtime wind down message like maybe 45 minutes ago while we were talking. And I'm just like, Bird, why are you still talking to me? Like, I am a bad mom. I'm sorry. You're not going to grow with me. I'm sorry. We're not completing any tasks. We're not. Nope. And
like, I just want to be clear. I'm not making fun of people for whom this works.
No.
I am almost making fun of myself because I can't just let myself enjoy a little cartoon bird. I have to get almost antagonistic in response to feeling as if this bird is lying to me. This little program with an animation that I'm like, how dare you act like you know me? What is the matter with me? That's weird. Like, that's a little bit of a weird response. But also, it isn't real. And getting choked up at it, I find absolutely baffling. Like, it's just, I can't relate to it at all. And I'm glad it works for somebody. Like, there's something really lovely about knowing that, because it makes it feel like, okay, it's just not for me. Instead of it feeling like this is a complete waste, why did they bother? I can just be like, okay, this isn't for me, but for other people, it's something. And I can just respect that. I wish, though, that I was the sort of person for whom this did work, because maybe I would be able to like have more faith in myself if I didn't discount every good thing anybody said to me based on how I don't feel like they really know me anyway. So
I think that's the thing.
Would say this because they're unaware that they're wrong.
I think that's exactly it. I think that's really the crux of it, is that how are we able to accept positive reinforcement, affirmation, whatever you want to call it. And and for some of us, it's really about the source. Like, the source is what matters. Who is it coming from? That's where the value lands. And it's different for different people. I'm really like kind of like low key touched that because I'm not in the Facebook group because I barely engage with the app at all. That it's so meaningful because that's what it's meant to be, and that's what they're trying to accomplish. So I'm so like touched that it's working for people, and I'm bummed that I have such a different response to it, because then it just becomes like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with me? Can I just get over myself?
It's really like I feel so bad sometimes because I know that part of me not accepting compliments is me also judging the people. So it's like a 1-2 punch of me being like kind of judgy of another person, and then being like, and of course they don't know anything about me being good at stuff, because how could they? Mm-hmm. And it's so like rude to both of us. And yet I don't really know how to like not have that reaction, because I really believe in my heart, if Owen's grandmother says that I made something delicious, who cares? She's the worst cook I've ever met in my entire life. And I'm not going to listen to what she says about it, because she doesn't know anything about food or cooking. And I'll be like, okay, I believe that you liked it, but I'm not believing objectively that it is good because you said so.
Right.
That kind of thing.
And the flip side of that is that while we are so critical of compliments and deciding whether or not the source is valid and whether or not the compliment holds weight, a negative remark, at least for me, a negative remark, I'm not checking the source on that at all. I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. I'm terrible. You're 100% right. I'm the worst you've ever heard. You're right. Like, I'm not fact checking. Not fact checking that shit at all.
It's just like, but then you have the flip side where, like, a couple years ago when I started doing Spoil Me, I was covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and you were listening to those episodes, and you left a comment in the Facebook group about how excellent my coverage of it was. And I got so teary-eyed.
Aww.
When it comes from you, that's a completely different situation. You're not out here all the time being like, you're so good at this, Natasha. I believe that you think I am good at this. That's not me saying like, you don't say it to me. But you don't say it because it's not the relationship that we have. We believe in each other, but we don't have to tell each other that we believe in each other, because both of us are aware, and it doesn't help a lot of the time, frankly. Sorry, but it does.
And we tend to tell each other that privately and not necessarily, on the social medias, etc.
And when I say it, it's like part of a really sincere conversation that doesn't need to be like content. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you took the time, that you were enjoying it enough that you posted about it, and it was just a really lovely surprise, because I didn't even know you were listening to the show at that point. So it was a combo of just like, oh my God, she's listening, and it's only me by myself and she still likes it. Like, it was just so nice. So that kind of compliment then hits like 20 times as hard, because the person it's coming from I value so much. And when I say value, guys, I'm not trying to say like, if you don't know how to do this thing, what you say doesn't matter. I'm saying there are certain people on certain topics that I know their judgment and trust it so much that if they have a good opinion of me regarding that particular topic, it's really going to matter to me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm much more like data-based in that respect.
Right.
My mom can tell me that I drew a pretty Wheel of the Year, but she's my mom. Of course she's going to say, it's lovely, honey. It's so beautiful. I don't care what my mom says. I love her. I'm glad she believes in me. She should. She's my mother. But also, it doesn't mean anything like a person who is an artist. Like, I send the picture to Sydney, and Sydney responds with like, holy shit. That's like 6,000 points, in my opinion.
Right. And the thing is that most people, and this is a wild generalization, but for a lot of us, the way we're socialized is that we don't necessarily check the source, which is why people like Snow can move through a room and just say shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and people are just like, oh, that's great. That's great. Thanks for noticing. Thanks for saying that thing. Because a lot of us just want that sort of immediate validation, and we're not necessarily concerned with where it comes from. But I will say, circling this back to Snow, I think his words carry weight because of the continued appearance as though he is someone of real value.
Agree.
You know?
Yeah, agree.
So when he tells someone something nice, their perception of it is that, oh, it's coming from someone very important, you know, so it must mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got wildly
I'm
off
sorry,
track
guys.
there for a second.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was just something that I was thinking of about Finch in general, and then this whole thing, and it just all kind of collapsed into this one thought about just like, why can't you just believe good things? And because they're fake a lot of the time. That's why. But
yeah, and that's really what this is, right? With him, like, he doesn't fucking, I don't believe for a second he gives a fuck about this mom's back surgery. He doesn't care about her. Tell her she's my hero. Like, I would laugh at that. I would laugh at that.
Exactly.
But that's me, and that's why I'm nowhere.
That's that. So the to jump things along, let's move on to Sejanus, because he's very fascinating to me. Sejanus is, as you said, from the districts. I think he's from 2. I think. Yeah,
he's from District 2.
And
and his mistress,
new money.
It's gymnasium mistress. I called her a PE teacher, but I was close.
Oh my god,
I was very close.
Yep, I love it. But yeah, so Sejanus is it's giving for me the Gilded Age, because he's here looking at this kid who's new money and just being like, oh, he's trying to weasel me out. He's trying to take my spot. It's pie. There's only so much. And he's going to get my piece. And then where will I be? And fuck this guy. And because he has had a really difficult time deciding how to handle him, because he wants to do what's like going to be seen as appropriate to everybody else, but he also wants to seem like above it all. Yeah. So
he takes this tack of ignoring him, which makes him sort of like classier than the bullies, because he's above it all, you know. But then this kid Sejanus takes it as like a nicety, like, oh, you didn't bully me, so that makes you better than the other guys. And we find out that this kid being in this academy is like unprecedented is the word. Like, it's like you don't see this, but his father has just made so much fucking money and donated so much money to the school. This kid's like a legacy, you know, without like the actual fact that his father went there. But basically his dad brought him into this school, and when he comes to the Capitol, the family, when they come to the Capitol, I love this line. It says, a Capitol-born citizen would have expected a building to be named after them for the amount of money that his father donated. But all his father had requested was an education for his son.
Yeah.
But the father understands, and then we find out a little bit later, there's a little bit of like disconnect between Sejanus and his father. They have like different ideas about like what's important. But his father understands that getting his son into society, air quotes, we're thinking about the Gilded Age, is what's important. Like, our family is not going to be accepted until we start moving and performing and behaving the way the Capital Society does. And the first step is to get my son in place with the rest of these kids.
Yeah. And yeah, one of the ways that he does that is likely later on requesting that Sejanus be given a tribute from his own district.
Yeah.
So that he has to mentor someone he knows who's going into the games to prove I am not one of them. I'm one of you.
This is
which
terrible.
is some of the most brutal shit I have ever heard.
Yeah.
That is so grim.
This is like, and this is a really interesting conversation too, because like, all right, if you think of it, the American dream or the dream of capitalism is to climb up this ladder that we're all told that we can climb if we just work hard enough and use our bootstraps, or however that expression goes, right? We can all eventually attain this level if we just work hard enough and we just play the game enough. But part of that is, as you're ascending, you have to separate yourself from the people that you're leaving behind, the people that you're leaving below you. You know,
right.
Like sort of like Clash Trader, you know?
Exactly.
And the fact that his own father is putting him to this test, this very public test too, right? This is not some private family dinner conversation. This is for the whole nation to watch. As you betray in the most awful way the place you come from, so that you can signal to the capital people, I'm one of you now. Look at how I treat the people from where I come from. Look how little they mean to me. I am so fully invested in our new lives now that those people mean nothing to me. And that he would put that on his son to perform is disgusting.
Yeah, it's super gross. It's something that I had forgotten was set up like this. So in this conversation that Coriolanus has with Sejanus, there's a moment where he kind of pokes at him a little bit, because he's like getting a workout looking at the shield. And then that's a fine polished job. Sejanus tensed at the implication that he was what? A suck up? A lackey? Coriolanus let it build a moment before he diffused it. I should know. I do all Satyria's wine goblets. Sejanus relaxed at that. Really? No, not really, but only because she hasn't thought of it, said Coriolanus, seesawing between disdain and camaraderie.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's very good. That's very good. Like, he's really good at this. Yeah. I hate it.
Yeah. He's very, very, very good at this. There's a moment where Sejanus's teacher, the gym teacher, her name is Sickle, Professor Sickle, looks at Snow and is like, nice shirt. That's your dad's shirt?
Yep.
Calls him out to his face. And he, like, right on the spot, goes, oh, thank you for noticing. I had it redone. You know, not to make it look like I had been in combat, but I wanted my father here with me, because this is a very special day. Like, on the spot, he comes up with this.
Flawless.
Scary.
It's so, like, and you guys, I want to be, like, on the sidelines of this interaction with scorecards. This should be the Hunger Games. This should be it. All these people schmoozing and trying to subtly insult each other and then recover from it and then insult back, and how they do it. And I want to give scorecards and send prizes for, like, the most ballsy responses to things. This is entirely my jam. Let it be not verbal violence only. There's a moment where Snow's teacher, the one who drinks a little bit, her name is Satyria, something like that. Satyria is how I say it.
She comments on how nice he looks, so then he has to comment on how nice she looks, even though she's been wearing the same dress every time. She just gets it, like, you know, a feather here, added or taken away or whatever to like change it up a little bit, but it's the same fucking dress. But he's like, she complimented me.
Like, and it's like when he says, "Oh, it's new," right? I feel like if you were a type of person, you could take that as him being like, we both know it's not new. But she doesn't take it that way. She's like, thank you so much. And like goes with it. And I can't tell if that's just self-preservation or because she's really not aware that he noticed. I don't know.
She says, I had it done especially for today. And he says, elegant. And then he thinks to himself, all in all, they were not a bad team. So I don't know if like she's in on it or if she's, you know, just so far gone and out of it that she doesn't pick up on the fact that she's been clocked at all. I really can't tell.
So, all right, we've got to move this along, but
yeah,
see what I'm saying?
Okay.
No, like I don't love the overall like plot point, but I love the details. So I feel like it's going to be really fun to talk about anyway, even though a large part of it, I'm just going to sort of hand wave and be like, oh yeah. And then that person died or something. You know what I mean? So eventually he finds out that he has District 12 and he feels like it's a huge slap in the face, but she hasn't been reaped yet. They're only told what district, and then the reaping happens after. So you don't know the personality of the person you have gotten until that reaping. And so when he sees the actual reaping, he starts to think maybe things are working out okay.
I love that he's convinced that he's gotten 12 because he's got this nickname for the dean. The dean's name is High Bottom, and he calls him Dean High as a kite. And he's like paranoid that somehow he's been outed as the origin of that nickname, and that now the dean is out to get him. And so then they have the actual reaping, and this was wild. This District 12 reaping is a lot more eventful than any of the reapings we got in the original trilogy. Yeah, even with Katniss volunteering as tribute, which was shocking. This is entertainment. You know,
indeed, yes. So what happens is Lucy Gray Baird is drawn from the little spinning ball of names, or is she? And she, instead of leaving her spot in the crowd and coming straight up to the stage, she sidelines through the crowd to a particular girl, pulls something out of her pocket, drops it down the front of the girl's dress, and walks away, leaving us to discover that it was a snake.
Yeah. She never even looks back.
Yeah. The girl who's got the snake she's dealing with is like on the ground flipping out.
The mayor's daughter.
If it was even venomous or not, but it becomes part of the story. Yeah. And so the mayor then comes up on stage and belts her across the face. And when she gets hit, she's sitting there. Somebody in the crowd begins to sing a song and gets her attention. Somebody probably who knows her and is trying to be like supportive. And she picks up the song and stands up and begins to perform.
Yeah.
And she's in like a getup, like an outfit that is so, it was obviously for somebody who was on stage to begin with.
It's rainbow colored. It's not like the gray drab that everybody else is wearing. She's got like a little bit of makeup on. And when she gets popped from the mayor, because after he goes and checks on his daughter, he comes back up and he smacks her across the face. Snow is staring at the screen and he's like thinking to himself, like, don't cry. Like, just don't cry. And then he realizes that like, he said that shit out loud. He looks around, but everybody else is so engrossed on the screen that they're not even clocking what he's doing at all. And she starts to sing this song that is basically like, you can do whatever you want to me, but you can't take what makes me me. Anything that you take from me wasn't even worth keeping in the first fucking place.
Yep.
And I love this moment where he's watching and he's just like, this is familiar, but I can't place it. And then he's like, oh, it's like a circus. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's a circus. It's a memory that he has from when he's little. And he says his tribute, choosing such festive attire for the darkest event of the year, showed a strangeness beyond a simple lapse of judgment. I love that sentence.
Yeah. There's a couple times where he's just like, is this bitch just crazy? And like eventually thinks, yeah, you know what? She's just crazy. But oh well, this is the bitch I've got. So yeah, she really just makes such an impression that despite the 12 being a slap in the face, people are now jealous of him. And he's very excited to try and make the most of this. And so what he decides to do is, instead of waiting for the sanctioned, supervised first meetup that everybody else is planning to wait for to meet their tribute, he is going to go to the train station to meet her train and make a really big impression on her that he is on her side, to gain her trust and foster a connection that will get the attention of the people in charge, that he is like this involved with his tribute. So he gets a flower from his grandmother's garden, a rose, and he goes to the station, and there's not like a schedule and nobody's waiting. It's really interesting because in the original trilogy, when they pull in, everybody's waiting. Everybody wants to see them.
Oh yeah.
It's a
whole different vibe.
Yeah.
This is completely different. The way that they roll into the Capitol, these tributes, versus the way that we've seen tributes roll into the Capitol in the original trilogy, is so fucking different. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also get a little bit of history about like how bad it was for the Snow family, and how his grandmom went and got all those beans, and like they stocked them all across the house so that they wouldn't starve.
Yeah, his grandmother had some really surprising like early acuity that they should get their ducks in a row to be able to keep face later. And you know, he sort of like is kind of to mentally talking smack about her, but then stops himself and is like, oh, she was on that though. That was a good call.
And then one last thing before he goes to the train, the last thing that happens at this big party, at the reaping party, is that after he like tries to go get his plate, he does have an encounter with the dean, and the dean calls him out on all his shit. He's like, I see you're wearing your dad's old shirt and you're wearing shoes that don't fucking fit. And I bet you need that prize for tuition because you can't really afford to pay it, can you? Look at you in your makeshift shirt and your too tight shoes, trying to hold it together, strutting around the Capitol, when I doubt the Snows have a pot to piss in. Even with prize, it'd be a stretch. And you don't have one, do you? I wonder what would happen to you then. What then? And then he says, don't worry, nobody knows. Well, hardly anybody. Enjoy that pie, boy. And the dean walks away. Yeah. So we know that his act is not fooling everybody. We don't know exactly who knows what, but we know that somebody knows something.
It's really fun for me because I get to sort of enjoy this, you know, as I'm personally knowing this man turns out to be a horrible monster. Him thinking that he's really doing it, and then somebody coming up to him and being like, the fuck I think. You are absolutely transparent. Instead of just being like, I'm filled with dread. There's a big part of me that's like, sucks to suck. I don't know if that's just me. Like, did you feel dread in response to this man?
I did not.
Exactly what the fuck was going on?
I did not. I did not. It's hard for me
Okay.
I did not. Because we know what he turns into, it's hard for me to feel like the stakes of this balancing act that he's trying to perform, because I know where it ends. I know that he's successful. I know that whatever is going to happen in this book, whatever losses and whatever the tension of this book ends up being, I know that the end result is never going to be that he fails, because I already know he succeeds. So it takes a lot of that off the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the tension is going to have to come from somewhere else. I'm just not sure exactly where it's going to come from. I'll tell you what I don't want.
Go ahead.
So
I know.
If he falls in love with this girl from 12, y'all, I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to be so annoyed. If this turns into like some kind of like love story between him and this girl, because again, I know where he ends up. So I don't know anything about Lucy yet, right? But I'm predisposed to think that she, as a resident of District 12, and the hardships that come from that, I feel like she is not going to be here for any of his shenanigans. And so and I know he ends up being the king of shenanigans. So if he falls for this girl,
king of shenanigans is the most like understated I can't even. I'm sure you could say it that way, you lunatic. Make it almost endearing.
But like if he falls in love with this girl and has like a moment of being like, maybe everything I thought was wrong. Maybe I've been on the wrong side of history and my priorities are all fucked up and there's more important things in the world. But he ends up being the President Snow that I've already met. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Suzanne's going to have to really like be on her bullshit to get me through it, because I have got zero interest in that being a thing.
All right. Noted. Everybody, just keep this in mind, because there is the thing that I said about Hunger Games, that I saw this as like another YA series that was doing a girl has two amazing guys who both love her. Whatever shall she do? And I didn't get the fact that like she stuck that in there to get our attention about the real things. Like It was not a story about their love. It was a story about the fall of capitalism and overcoming oppression. And she decided to put that romance in there as a way to get the hook,
right?
Which is oddly what they did in the games themselves, was invented this like fake romance to get a hook.
Right.
So once I began to appreciate that, the whole romance thing I was able to look at in a very different way. And as much as I was sort of frustrated with like, oh, another love triangle, I can see now what she was doing was not the same thing. And if this is coming up in this book, I'll be interested in, because I read this so long ago now, I'll be interested in if there is a similar feeling. Like, is it seeming on the surface like it's one thing and it's kind of not really? Is she doing something different? Or maybe she's not. Maybe it's exactly what it looks like. I don't know. But I just wanted to point that out, because like it took me a while to reconcile the romance. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, that was genius actually. But with this book, I don't know. So, okay. The train comes in And it's pretty fucking horrifying.
Listen, this
They are
is
put
terrible.
in livestock cars with
Where
no windows.
is the first class cabin with all the food and the fucking luxuries? None of that. None of that. Also, a quick mention, like we talked about how this particular game with the mentors is going to be different, but what they had been doing was just dumping them into the old arena and giving them some weapons and just being like, fight to the death.
Yep.
Like that's what the games were. And nobody is watching. People aren't engaged in the games the way they are in the original trilogy that we all know, where it's like this huge event. People aren't watching. People don't care. People think it's depressing and don't want to be reminded of the war, and it's not doing what they want it to do, which is to elevate the capital, entertain the capital, and also punish the districts. It's only punishing the districts, and the capital isn't reaping any benefit from it. So that's what they're trying to change with this new system. So just wanted to mention that as well. Though people who are listening probably read the book and don't really need me to point that out. But it's a podcast.
That's what we do. Just 1 second. There's a kitten on my shoe, and I think she really wants to be picked up here. So come here.
There's a kitten on my shoe. Oh my God.
Yeah, everybody. Sorry about this. She's so cute. Oh God, it's gross. Okay.
So
put you down here in my arms, and you just take a little nappy nap. Okay.
That squeak, I cannot take it. Oh my God. My God. I cannot. You guys don't know the way a kitten squeak sets my body aflame. The way women, when they see babies, it is out of control.
She's heard you, and she's redoubling her efforts. Somebody appreciates me around here.
My God. Like, if my life was not in shambles, I would be going to somewhere tomorrow to get another cat. But that is completely off the table. But, like, you have no idea how strong the urge is. It's like primal. It is. Oh my God, I cannot take it. I cannot take it.
I think she wants to eat. Hold on, I'm feeding her. I have her little bottle here. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear her eating. Oh my God.
She is so hungry. She's been going through like a bottle and a half a day. It's been quite a lot. I have some transitional kitten mousse in little pouches that were on super clearance. And soon she's going to have to start having that. We're going to mix it with her milk at first. But I'm trying to enjoy bottle feeding while it's here because it is the cutest possible activity.
It really, really is. It's been so long since I've had to do it. I haven't done it since we moved back from North Carolina. So it's been 15 years since we've had any babies that were that we needed to bottle feed, and I miss it so much. So he goes to meet this train, and
yes. And yeah, it's like they are actual animals, which is underscored by the last sentence of chapter 3.
And I love that it's Tigress who has the idea that he should go. She tells him, because she has gone to a separate reaping party at her employer's place. So it's like a Super Bowl party. And they, so she's with them kind of as the help while they're like enjoying the party and getting all fucked up and everything. And she tells him that everybody goes crazy for Lucy, that they're just like, she's got star quality. We got to keep our eye on her. And tells him, she's going to be terrified. Imagine how alone she must feel. And that if I were in her place, if you could make me feel like you cared about me, that would go a long way. Make me feel like I was of value. And she says, you should take her something just a token to let her know that you value her. And that's why he gets the idea to take the Rose to the train station and meet her. No one else is going to meet their tribute at the train station. Everybody else is going to meet them at like the official session or whatever. So he's just out there by himself with this Rose waiting for hours for a fucking train that barely comes.
It's, how did you react to this? Like, when the train pulls up, were you shocked at the conditions?
Absolutely.
Or were you sort of expecting it to be a really primitive version of things?
I was shocked. I mean, I expected it to not be quite as fancy. Once I get into the book and I get an idea of where we are in relation to the war, and it's only been a few years since the peace was attained, the treaty. Because there's some bits in the first two chapters about how one of the things that Snow mentions is how before the war there was waste everywhere. And he has memories of a child of Avoxes being like the garbage men and coming and collecting all the waste, and how that just ceased when the war started and people started hoarding and scrounging. And he mentions there's like a throwaway line where he's starting to see waste again, but not in the quantities. Yeah. But there's indications that the capital is continuing on its recovery. So I expected it to be primitive, but I didn't expect it to be this. Yeah, I didn't expect them to be handcuffed in livestock, what do you call them? Not trailers. Carriages, yeah. Just kind of like left in their own filth in the dark, being transported in this way. That I was completely blown away by the brutality of it, which I shouldn't have been, because the games themselves are so brutal. But I sort of, the world of the capital that I know is 30 years, give or take, after this, and it's just such a different vibe. It's so different. And Snow also unprepared.
Yeah, he did not think it was going to be like this. And it's really interesting the way that she writes him, because he can look at it all and be horrified, but there's never really a sense of compassion in there. He's horrified in this sort of like, this is so undignified and unsanitary sort of way. He never seems to be like, this is wrong. This is outrageous. Never. Yeah. This isn't how you treat human beings. And it's interesting because like, this is more honest, if anything, about where they're headed. But it seems so much worse. And I'm like, or is it worse to give them a couple days of the ultimate luxury before you kill them? Make them kill each other, whatever. Like what's it's an interesting question. That's a fantastic question, because really what, like, the pretense that we get in the later books, right, or the original books, the show of it, the glamour of it all, the spectacle, the trappings that accompany the brutality of the fact that we are still dropping you in this arena with some weapons and you're going to fight to the death, but we just made it look really, really pretty while we watch you do this. And and in this universe, this time period, those trappings don't exist. It's all very bare bones, and it's all, there's no pretense. We're not going to treat you like you're royalty and you're superstars, because you're not. We're going to treat you like you're fucking chattel, because that's what you are to us. There's an honesty to it that is quite disturbing, but it doesn't create that sort of dissonance that we get in the original trilogy, which is, how can you go out to the districts, like with Effie, and you're all dressed up and you're all decked out in your capital gear, and you're like having this affected voice, and you're treating it like this is a celebration when this is the worst day of everybody's life. And we all have to pretend like it's not. There's like very little pretending
happening.
Yes. Yes.
Which is, I think maybe I can see why the games aren't very popular. I can see why nobody wants to watch this shit.
That really fascinated me, the fact that everybody pretty much avoids it, knowing that in the future it's literally mandatory to the point that people get given televisions to watch it on, which just the turnaround on the way a lot of this works, I just think is so compelling, and I really want to know like more about that.
I feel like Lucy's when Snow hears from Tigress how Lucy goes over with the crowd, and he gets the inkling of like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how you get further along. If you make people become invested in her as an individual. I think somebody even says something as basic as like, you got to give people someone to root for. Oh, listen to that baby. She knows.
Sorry.
You have to, and up until this moment in these games, there's no reason to root for any of these tributes, especially if they're all just there to be punished as reparations for the crime of rebelling against the Capitol. It's just like, taking a state execution and turning it into something that's fun to watch on TV. Like, how do you get from there to where it ends up?
Okay, sorry guys, got a little distracted there. I just had to put her right up into my neck. That shut her up temporarily, evidently. Okay, so this scene, it's so odd because like he has this rose. She takes a petal off of the rose and eats it and tells him, when I was a baby, they used to bathe me in rose petals and milk. Which, it's just a thing, like, she just says it in buttermilk and rose petals. She said in a manner that, despite the unlikeliness of her claim, seemed totally believable. There is something about making her perhaps this, like, outrageous liar that I think is so interesting. That she's, and when I say liar, I don't even mean that she's intending him to believe her.
I know what you mean. It's just saying it.
I think, she's like storytelling out loud.
She runs her thumb over the petal and then slips it in her mouth and says, tastes like bedtime.
There's something that's so power move about that.
That really is. There's just something like the power dynamic between the two of them should really be leaning in his favor, and yet somehow it's not already.
Yeah.
Already she is the one with the power.
When he says, because he says, what, I'm your mentor. I wanted to meet you on my own terms, not the game makers. Ah, a rebel, she said. That word was poison in the mouths of Capitol citizens, but she had said it approvingly as a compliment. Or was she mocking him? He remembered she carried snakes in her pocket, and the usual rules didn't apply to her. Amazing. And what does my mentor do for me, besides bring me roses? I do my best to take care of you, he said. She glanced over her shoulder where the peacekeepers were tossing 2 half-starved children onto the platform. The girl broke a front tooth on the platform, while the boy received several sharp kicks upon landing. Lucy Gray smiled up at Coriolanus. Well, good luck, gorgeous, she said, and walked back to Jessup, leaving him and his rose behind.
I love that so much. I love it so much.
She
is
is
such a
absolute
fucking call out.
Behavior.
Absolutely. It is such a fucking call out. Oh, you're here to take care of me? Really? Because do you see what's happening to me right now? Do you see what's happening to those kids right there right now? But you're here to take care of me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then she leaves him standing there with his rose that he had to basically beg his grandmom for, because apparently she does not let these roses just go willy-nilly.
Yeah, it's a big deal when she cuts them, evidently. So yeah, he watches her walk away, and then he sees the truck that's like a cage that you can see through, that they are going to be paraded through the streets in. And he realizes that she's watching him, and that if he wants to make any sort of impression, he's going to have to do something kind of desperate. So he goes up to the guy running the show, who is a very disgruntled,
drunk
peacekeeper. Yeah, definitely has some whiffiness about him. And convinces this guy to let him into the cage. Join the party, by all means. So he gets in there with the 24 reaped tributes alone, which he quickly begins to realize was maybe not the most clever thing he's ever done.
It really isn't. It really isn't. He just gets in this cage with these people who he doesn't really consider. That's the thing. And you know what? There's a line very, very early, like in the first chapter, and when he's worried and he's obsessing about the shirt, and he says something like, it says, his mind could fixate on a problem like that, anything, and not let it go, as if controlling one element of his world would keep him from ruin. It was a bad habit that blinded him to other things that could harm him. A tendency towards obsession was hardwired into his brain, and would likely be his undoing if he couldn't learn to outsmart it. So, yeah.
Calm down, Suzanne. Come on. That's like literally what this whole book is about. You do not need to put the entire plot into like 4 sentences in chapter 1 or whatever.
1. It's right there.
And then just don't do the book then. But, okay.
Right there.
Here we are.
Yeah, he fucking is not thinking about anything else. He's not considering these other tributes. Arrogance also has got to be playing a big part of this.
Definitely.
Right? And he hops into this fucking WrestleMania cage. It's like a fucking cage match.
It is. Very literally, it turns into a cage match in a second.
And is not concerned. He's only concerned with how Lucy is perceiving him. He's not concerned with anything else. And then he gets in this bitch, and everybody is like, oh, well, look at Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah. What's the matter, pretty boy? You in the wrong cage?
Right?
The boy from District 11 who was not laughing at all. I love that line. The wrong cage. He's not like, oh, why aren't you free? He's like, you have your cage. We have our cage. This isn't for you. Interesting.
Yep. And then it's just like, he knew he had made a mistake. But he's already in this bitch now. It's already rolling down the street. He's already locked in. And he's thinking to himself, Snow is, well, I'm in better condition, you know. If a fight jumps out, like I can stand a chance. But then also it's like, but would you against that many people? And then that's when the boy from District 11 says the thing. And then he just goes after him, puts his hands around Snow's throat and pins him up against the bars. And fucking Snow just knees him in the crotch. Which, in real life, I don't have any moral objection to. I know that there's a whole idea of like you don't hit below the belt. It's not like a manly thing to do. It's not fair. I personally don't subscribe to the idea of fair fights. That's just how I get down personally. But I understand that there is a sort of subtext to the idea of someone who would do that, right? Like a man who would kick another man in the nuts is like no man at all, or is like of low moral character, or, you know, whatever. It's like, it's coded, right?
Yes.
And that's what he does in self-defense. And it's what he's always done. in self-defense. It's his go-to move. It's his, I don't know you, that's my purse.
Oh my God. Amazing. Yep. Okay. Can't not see him as Snow now, but that's fine. Bobby Hill. I also, just for me, in terms of like fair fights, I'm not a big fan of in the crotch if you are doing that thing where you like fight for the show of it. If you get what I'm saying, like if you guys are taking it outside because some dude was rude to your girl and now you're just out of principle, don't knee somebody in the balls for that. But if you are going outside because somebody just like used a slur and you are dragging them out, knee them in the balls, fine. It depends on the type of fight we're having for me.
You know what's so funny to me is that I don't even think of those situations as being like for me, I only, because I'm not a fighter. I'm not like let's take it outside and like that. That's not like, has never been me. So for me, when I imagine a fight, it is always because somebody has put their hands on me first, because it's the only way I've ever fought. So I always forget that people fight for different reasons.
Yes. It's an important detail sometimes.
Like I always forget that sometimes it's just like, oh, somebody was talking shit about so-and-so and now you got to handle it, or somebody put their hands on somebody and now you got to take it outside. Like that's a legit thing that happens in the world. It's just like not my experience. So I always forget that those circumstances exist. In my mind, a fight is only ever a fight to the death. Because somebody is trying to hurt you.
My goodness. How very revealing.
Listen, I be fighting for my life out here. Like that's the only time I've ever had like a physical altercation, is because somebody, like, generally, except for like a few times where I was out of pocket, but that's a different podcast. but
never happened. What do you mean? You doubt it. Don't believe the hype.
But for most of the times, it's generally just like somebody is trying to hurt you, so you're doing whatever you can to like self-preservation. Which is the situation that Snow was in, which is why I was like, yeah, like, I don't think it's bad that he did that. But I think that in the story, we're supposed to maybe take something from the fact that this is how Snow fights. I could be reading more into it than she intended. But the way, because the way it's written is, you know, he's overpowered, his arms are pinned. And it even says he resorted to the one move that had yet to fail him in schoolyard scuffles, driving his knee up hard into his opponent's crotch. Like, that's his go-to move when he realizes he's losing a fight.
That's interesting, because I didn't really even like clock that line or what it could mean in that context. But I think you're right. That's interesting. Okay, I love that. See, this is why we do this, guys. Little things that we each like pick up that the other doesn't. It's fun. It's a fun time. So then one of the little boy who looks like he's barely 10 years old, even though apparently they do have that age restriction in place even now. So he says he had to be 12. He says, let's all kill him. And
can't do nothing worse to us.
Yeah. And clearly, like, Coriolanus, this had not occurred to him. The fact that they may just murder him. And is genuinely for a moment like, oh, wait, is that what we're doing?
Yep.
And this, the way that this gets sort of calmed down, when the boy says can't do nothing worse to us, Lucy says, not to us, maybe. You got family back home? Someone they could punish there? This seemed to take the wind out of the other tribute's sails. She wriggled through and placed herself between them and Coriolanus. Besides, she said, he's my mentor, supposed to help me. I might need him. And they ask about, well, if we all get one, then where are ours? And he's like, well, they're coming. I just showed up early. And they go down this street because they're able to see out. They're in an open cage, and Coriolanus is like at one point hiding from sight, which is what really makes them laugh.
I just
When-
want to say when she says he's my mentor and everybody says, well, how come you get one? How come you get a mender? I love it too. It's mender instead of mentor. And she's like, he says you each get one. And then the kid is like, well, how come they didn't come? And it's Lucy. And she says, just not inspired, I guess. That's so
she is
good.
very good.
It's so good.
So he notices that like the place that they're going isn't where he expected. He's like, in previous years, I feel like they had been put in stables. And he says, as soon as they arrived, he would find a peacekeeper and explain things. Perhaps ask for a bit of protection, given the hostility. And they're backing in, and it looks like a dead end. And there's this weird chute that opens, and the back of the truck is like tipping into it.
They just dumped them in there like garbage.
They just slide down the chute into an open cage, and he doesn't know where they are, and he looks around and realizes that they are in the monkey house of the Capitol Zoo.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
You guys, when I first read this, my mouth was hanging open right here.
It's he's standing around trying to figure out what the fuck. And then he's like, this isn't the fucking stables. And then it's just like, I remember what this is. And the sand, the artificial rocks, the row of metal bars, the faces of Capitol children gawked at him. He was in the monkey house at the zoo. And I said, bitch, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So they took the tributes at this time. Not only did they transport them in this horrific way in the livestock car of the train and then load them up into this fucking cage on wheels, and then they dumped them into the fucking zoo to be stared at and gawked at by visitors. And I don't know if this is like, I know from the other books that the whole transport and arrival of the tributes into the Capitol was a big deal, like we talked about earlier. Clearly it's not that yet, but I don't know if it's still like televised, like if the tributes arriving in the Capitol is the television event that we know it becomes, right? Minus the Caesar Flickerman type character. So I don't know if important, air quotes, important people, other mentors, are on the outside of the monkey house looking in. I don't know if this is being televised, because my God, can you even imagine if this is being broadcast? Like, I feel like Snow is so good at thinking on his feet when it comes to flipping a situation to his benefit, the way he does when he's called out about the dress shirt. But like, how does I don't know. I pray this is a private moment, that like, you know, this is not, I mean, maybe it'll be good for him. Like, say, like, hypothetically, say that this is televised and Lucy has already garnered some sort of fascination by her reaping. And then you add this spectacle to that spectacle. Maybe it works out for them. But all I could think was, who is going to let him out of this monkey cage? Like, and how is he going to explain what happened and why he's there? And is this a negative or a positive? And I'm not really sure. I guess it just depends on how he's able to spin it, which again, he seems very adept at. So maybe he can spin this into something that works for them. But my God, this is not like, what does the family say? Snow always lands on top. Type. This does not seem like a good look for such a prominent family to be like mixed in with the riffraff in this way. And
the hoi polloi.
And to be dumped so unceremoniously into like a zoo pen. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot for 3 chapters.
I'm going to read you the first paragraph of the next chapter, just right now, real quick. He could not have felt more exposed had he been standing naked in the middle of the Corso. At least then he would have had the option to escape. Now he was trapped and on display for the first time, appreciating the animal's inability to hide. Children had begun to chatter excitedly and point at his school uniform, drawing the attention of the adults. Faces were filling all the available space between the bars, but the real horror was a pair of cameras pointed at either end of the visitors. Capital News, with their omnipresent coverage and their saucy slogan, "If you didn't see it here, it didn't happen." Oh, it was happening to him now.
No! This shit is on the news. Oh my God. You know that sound when that lady's wig falls off? Like that's all I can hear. Oh my God. Y'all, if y'all don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
There's a clip of a woman and she's doing an interview, podcast or something, who knows, and she's having a really nice, what I think is a very like serious conversation.
Yeah, it feels like very heartfelt,
right? And for whatever reason, gravity or the universe just being like, "Gotcha, bitch." Her wig just like she's not outside, she's not moving around. It doesn't make any sense, but her wig just falls off her head and like slides down behind the fucking couch she's sitting on. And she just goes, "Oh my God."
The guy interviewing her is like not sure how to react. Clearly, like she starts laughing, so then he feels it's okay to laugh. But there's a real tense moment there of just like, oh, is she gonna absolutely lose her mind right now?
Oh my God. She's got to dig behind the couch to pull this wig back up, and she's like fluffing it, and she's just like, dude,
dusting it off.
Like, you're not gonna air that, are you?
Oh man, it's really funny.
She does handle it with so much grace and so much humor. It is a really remarkable clip, but I swear to God, that sound cracks me up. So I say that to myself a million times a day. Oh my God.
It is appropriate here. It definitely is. Yeah, because I had the exact same thought as you when I first read this, was just like, wait, how many people are going to know about this? Like, what happens? And finding out that, because, you know, it can be a little bit unclear what level the technology is at. Mm-hmm. So what I've been sort of picturing is like 1930s.
Yeah.
You know, just that weird sort of that aesthetic and general, but I think we're more advanced than that. Really. That's the like feeling for me.
The way I'm picturing it is that maybe not everyone has a television in their home at this point.
Okay.
After the war. So like maybe there are common spaces where people gather to watch things, but maybe not everybody has one like right in their house. But either way, this shit is on TV and people are seeing it. And this is, I mean,
this is like a case scenario.
It really feels like it. And I feel pretty confident that he's going to find a way to try to spin this. But also, he's not the only one here. So it really depends. His ability to spin this to his advantage is going to also depend on how the other people, yet the tributes, behave, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, if they are no longer a threat to him and they really did take the wind out of their sails with Lucy being like, "What about your family though?" Then he might be able to pull off, even though he's got to look a mess at this point. He's got to be all rumpled and shit from fighting and then being tossed down the fucking ramp into the cage. He's probably not like looking his best, but if there's no open hostility or like a threat of violence from the tributes, he might be able to pull off you know, I don't know exactly how he would spin it because I'm not like a psychopath, but but some way to make it seem like, oh, you're gonna want to keep your eye on 12 and me too because I'm doing shit that nobody's doing. You know what I mean? And because at the core of what they're trying to accomplish is engagement and getting people talking about this and getting people invested in this. And this could very well end up in that side of the world that says, you know, there's no such thing as bad publicity. You know, so it could fall under that umbrella and he might be able to leverage this. But all I feel reading it and hearing you read that little paragraph is just humiliation, and I would just curl up and die. Like I would curl up into myself into a tiny ball until I just blipped out of existence. That's personally how I would handle it, but he's a different breed, so we'll see what he does.
He is, though. So, this the what I find really interesting, and it's something that I am going to be like sort of monitoring and keeping an eye on as we keep going, is the overall dichotomy here between two people who are performing all the time, and how completely different that looks depending on who it is. But how much everything depends on it for both of them. At least the things that they value. Because she's out here just being like, when I was a kid, they used to bathe me in buttermilk and rose petals for no reason. She just says it. Nobody asks.
Completely unprompted, right?
Yeah. And so there's a certain savviness to her knowing that probably she should, you know, handle this person in a particular way, trying to get the size of him and see what she's working with probably. And him in his way, it's just really, really compelling, that aspect of it for me, because of how different their performances have to be. She can be a lot more overt because that's her role. She's literally like, you know, she's the talent. And so she can almost, I won't say that she has it easier because it's much more degrading, the position that she's in. Sure. But it is a little simpler because she can be performing and everyone is aware that's what's happening. And it doesn't feel, I won't say even insincere. It doesn't matter if it's sincere because that's not what it's about, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with him, he has to cloak his performance a lot. Yes. And can't let people be aware that's what it is.
Yeah, he can't let people know he's performing. He has to appear sincere, where she doesn't necessarily have to. Or maybe not sincere is not the right word, but authentic maybe. Like,
there you go. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because there's even a mention like not just the outfit, but she's wearing this like dramatic makeup that he says something about like in the Capitol, it would have actually been like on trend.
Bold. Yeah. He did.
Yeah. But where she is, it looks crazy. Like she just stands out so much. So yeah, even her appearance is just much more in your face.
Which is very interesting. You made an offhand comment that I wasn't going to really talk about, but when you talk about her name being pulled, allegedly being pulled, it is interesting that she seems to have come to the reaping as if she knew she were going to end up on stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is I really don't know quite what to make of that just yet. I don't know if I'm going to go into any kind of tinfoil hat conspiracy theories just yet, but it is a little sus that the name that's called is somebody who is walking around with a snake in their pocket.
Yep.
What's that about? And then it's also all done up in this get up that is so unlike what anybody else is wearing, and is also faces made up when no one else is. Yeah, I'm wondering what that is about exactly.
Sejanus, when he's watching it, says like, "Oh, this is all a setup." Like instantly, it's just like they didn't even pull her name; they just called her up, and he really.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He
Yeah.
does say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't really talk too much about like some of the other stuff with him, but we talked about most of it. We just talked about it kind of out of order. But you're right; he does say that. Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. And which is like, if you think that that's a setup for her to get called, and that someone knew that Snow was going to get 12. Just that's all, huh? Indeed.
Possibly.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this should be interesting. I'm like you said at the beginning, I am really interested in seeing what this world looks like at this time, and getting some backstory on how we go from here to the world that we were first introduced to. I'm curious. One of the things I am curious is how involved in the games does Snow become through this book. I don't know like how much time this book is actually going to cover. So
Right.
I don't know if it's just going to be like the one Hunger Games that Lucy is in, and then that's all we get, or if it's going to go past that, or, you know, like how long of the story we're going to get. But I'm curious how involved he's going to be. Because that came up a lot in the movies. It doesn't come up in the books, but in the movies, he's so involved in every aspect of the game. And because, like we mentioned at the beginning, it does feel, at least at the beginning, it feels a little like she's retconning or trying to like make the portrayal of the movie make sense by giving us this backstory. So I'm wondering if she's going to make Snow like, you know, like, I don't know how much time it would take, but maybe he has so much success with Lucy in the games, and they become such a hit that he changes the whole attitude of the way that they treat the games. Like maybe that's the thing. Like once they see, oh, you can have a star and people will get really invested, and that's what we need to do each game is get these tributes in front of the camera so the people in the Capitol will care whether they win or lose or live or die, but not care enough to like not want the games to happen, but care like the way we care about when, you know, when we watch our own reality shows. So I'm interested to see that trajectory of Snow. In my imagination, I don't know if she has more books planned or if this was a one-time deal, but I don't necessarily expect to get the whole life of Snow. Like, I don't expect Snow to be president at the end of this book. I don't think it goes that long, but I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But I'm really interested in how
that guy's Pippin started snoring very loudly over here.
But I'm curious what kind of impact he's going to have on the games, because I think that's a lot of what this story is going to be. Is my guess.
Okay. I'm a lot more excited after having covered these first chapters, because it just is going to be, there's a lot that I think will be really fun to talk about, even if parts of the plot are going to kind of not quite hit, I'm guessing, based on my reaction and the way you reacted in the opening sentences of this episode. But just because not everything works doesn't mean something has no value. And I haven't watched the movie at all, so I'm really looking forward to eventually watching that and seeing how that, just all of this, the performance of Lucy, it's very hard sometimes for me to like grasp her as a person. And I am so curious to see what the actress did with her, because she is the one who plays Maria in the new West Side Story. And she was incredible. The new West Side Story is so good, except for Ansel Fuckface, who unfortunately is like the lead role. But
I have no idea what we're
him,
talking about. There was a new West Side Story?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was released like, I think 2021. And it was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, right. I just saw a clip from that actually on a very disturbing clip actually that I don't recall from the West Side Story version that I know, which is the classic version. There's a scene where they're like in detention and then this girl locks herself in a cage. And I was just like,
yeah, Officer Krupke. That's that song.
Is that what that is? Okay, yeah, it wasn't in a clip. It was just they were in like all these boys and one girl, and then she goes and locks herself in a cage, and the caption was basically like, every woman understands why she locks herself in a cage. And I was like, yes, we do.
That version of Officer Krupke. So I always loved West Side Story, as much as I don't love musicals mostly. It was always one of the exceptions. I have like 5 top, just can do no wrong musicals. And I got really excited seeing they were redoing it, because they had these fucking white people painted orange in the original, and it needed to be fucking redone. It needed it. And this movie is so fucking excellent, and it just didn't get any attention. It's so good. It's
no shit.
The acting, the singing, the choreography are all so deeply on point. They managed to update things just enough to feel like it's being conscientious about certain things, certain lyrics and stuff that just are not okay anymore. We have like shifted those, and they managed to infuse so much anger into the characters that are in these gangs to really make you understand where they're coming from with the way they act out. And the Officer Krupke, are you familiar with that song? Like the lyrics?
I love that song. Yeah.
That song is performed by these kids as if they are on the verge of killing each other. There's like an edge to it that is frightening. And it's so good. I'm going to go find it and
I already found it. 2021 West Side Story off. I'm going to watch it as soon as we hang up.
Yeah. Cause there was something about, they did it with that song and the way that they set it up. And then there's also the Stay Cool Boy, which is a difficult like song to make work. And the way that he stages it, and I'm just going to give this away, that it's staged that these two friends are fighting over a gun that is on the floor of a condemned house that has lots of holes in it and is swaying in the wind because they're on like the 4th floor. So it's this like huge set piece, but the dancing is all taking into account the architecture of this weird abandoned place, and the gun is sliding from side to side, and each of them is managing to get it at different times and then losing hold of it as they're singing the song. And so the song being all about being tense works so much better than it does in the original, when they're just like walking down the street talking about how they're about to lose it, and they do not look like they are about to lose it. But in this scene, when they're sliding around, the whole time you're going, oh God, you know, like, and there's just that extra edge to it. And it feels like, when I'm describing it, it probably sounds kind of hacky, but I swear it works really, really well. It really does. So I'm sorry, I just had to monologue about that. But anyway, she plays Maria. She's outstanding, but Maria is such a doe-eyed hayseed type of character And Lucy is like the exact opposite. So I'm excited to see what this actress is like. And I'm hoping so much that they let her be as savvy as she seems to be. And they didn't try to like movie her into being more innocent, because that's my big concern, you know? Anyway, I'm sorry guys. I feel like I just talked for like 20 minutes about this, but it's so good. All right. So this episode is so long. We've got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But, I am looking forward to more. I hope that you are too, even though I know you've got some concerns. At the very least, you'll be able to hear an adorable kitten while we record.
Well, we managed to find plenty to talk about, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. The things that we like, we'll like, and things that we don't, we will be sure to express that as well. But there's a lot of shit that I am looking forward to getting into in this book. There's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to seeing. So, I remain ever hopeful.
Yay. All right, everybody. I'm going to wait until next episode to say hi to new patrons, although I don't actually think I have any this week anyway. But, just getting into the new book and stuff. So I am really happy about deciding to cover this after all. I was really not sure, but I feel good about it. And I hope that everybody out there listening is enjoying the coverage. I am hopeful that y'all will consider joining the Patreon, patreon.com/unspoiled, and supporting us there. If you're enjoying stuff, you can get access to the episodes early, and they are completely ad-free if you sign up at the $5 tier. So that is that. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.